Hi, I really want to welcome everyone to this segment of the 24-hour block party. My name is Jackie Solomon. I'm co-founder of Seeds to Inspire social justice education nonprofit here in the Phoenix area. And for months, we've been focused so much on the health crisis that's been going on. But we've all felt in our meetings that there's an urgency to our evolution as imaginal selves. We've all felt that there was something bigger coming, and we've all been preparing for something. And I really believe in my heart that this is what we've been preparing for. And my heart has been breaking for a week. And I was actually going to reach out to Jackie when she reached out to me, because I know her heart, and we share the same soul, the same heart. And it's been bleeding all week. And where it really started hurting me was when I started seeing the fracture within our community. That's when I was just like, this is enough. We can't do this. What's going on can't infiltrate our work. It's too important. The children of the world, the animals, Earth, she needs us to stay unified. So I spoke with my dear friend Melvin, who we talk and we work together all the time on these issues, on how we can respond responsibly, but effectively. Use our platforms responsibly and contribute something that not only is going to address it with integrity, but also invite conversation and provide learning opportunities so that we can all grow together. And that's why I co-created this space. And I want to welcome Jackie and Gavin for contributing to the conversation. And Dr. Tar, who also responded to my invitation. I'd love for her to introduce herself to this community as well. And like I said, I'm part of 2 collective intelligence communities that are working all day, every day on actualizing Dr. Rao's vision of a vegan world by 2026. And we're making very good progress. And we have family members in this collective intelligence from all over the world. So I really want to use this platform, this opportunity for vegans of color to show the world why we made our lifestyle choices and how we have found these connections and how it has changed our lives and our work. And so that we can help illuminate others as to the broader picture, the broader vision, and the interconnectedness that we all know and experience every day. So thank you all for being here. If you have a lived experience that you can contribute to the conversation, please feel free to do so. And if you're just here to observe and learn, thank you and welcome. Melvin?
Yeah, thank you, Jackie. And I also want to say thanks to everyone here. I think I met Nancy. Did we meet Nancy in California? Is that? I think we met.
Vegan World 2026.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And I know Jackie and Devin, and I know most people here, but I'm just now meeting uh, Sun Mater. I'm just now meeting you. Say that again. Sandama. I'm just now meeting you and the other people here, and really welcome here to this conversation. When Jackie and I, we're always talking, we're always chopping it up. And like her, I've been torn for a long time about this here chasm between what we're trying to do in this world to make this world a better place for us all, for animals, and for the earth, and for plants, and for humans. And in this here movement that we're involved with, the people of color, we have always had this awareness that many of our white vegan brothers and sisters, they embrace wholeheartedly making the world a better place and putting a lot of effort and emphasis on animal rights and protecting the earth, trying to heal the earth. And one of the concerns with people of color is that we notice that we don't see the same population out championing Black Lives Matter. And that's a chasm that's created. and really we all fighting the same disease. We're all fighting the same thing. So it's very important for if our efforts are going to produce the results that we want, and we could be really unified, is that we all realize that we are really fighting the same system, the same processes that create the injustices in the world. There's a story Salesh told it once, and I've heard it before about these men were looking at the elephant, and Dr. Greger told the same story too. He's an MD and a vegan. About these men was looking at an elephant, and each one of them was they were blindfolded with touching the elephant, and each one of them described different parts of the elephant, and it was all the same elephant. And in with the diseases that's in our body, our healthcare system, our healthcare practice, the philosophy and the teaching, they isolate different parts of the disease and treat different parts of the disease as specialists and say, okay, if you got a heart problem, there's something wrong with your heart. If you got a kidney problem, there's something wrong with your kidney. You got a liver problem, there's something wrong with your kidney. You got a high blood pressure, there's something wrong with that. When it's really all the same disease, it's all the same, and the whole thing needs to be treated. And I think that it's important that we all realize that we are dealing with the same problem, the root cause of the problem. And for here, we all realize that we are really, I think among this group here, we are very conscious that we are really on the brink to facing the sixth mass extinction of on this earth, of life as we know it on this earth. We're really at the brink of it. And that we are aware that the root cause of it, when you look at nine planetary boundaries, when you look at those nine planetary boundaries, climate, stratosphere, ozone depletion, the biochemical flow of the nitrogen and the phosphate, water, fresh water usage, and the ocean acidification, and the other one. You look at all of those things that leading us to the brink of ending life as we know it on this earth. It's one catalyst. It's one that's driving them all, and it's land use for animal agriculture. And I think it's very, also not only that, when you look at issues of racism, um, income inequality, the disparity in education, poverty, all the social injustice. When you look at racism and as I said, income inequality, there's one catalyst that's driving all of this stuff. Because racism is really attached to the economy. It's really is derived out of economics. And when you look at the history of racism in this country, how this country started with a racist system of separation, domination, and privilege that continues to this day. And this hierarchical system was always based upon the mindset of separation, separateness, domination, and privilege, and is rooted off into the financial infrastructure of this country. And this financial infrastructure of this country for the last, particularly 150 years, have driven by land use for animal agriculture. So if we really want to make be most effective, veganism is the way to go. Veganism is what we can do. One of the things that brought me to being a vegan when I met Salesh, was it 7 years ago, Salesh? Or 5 years ago? And I was sitting down with Salesh and someone introduced him to me. And I said, well, what can we do about these bastards? Salesh, they're so powerful. They own the media. They got the army, the military, the industrial military complex, the science, the universities, everything. What can you do about them? They're so powerful. And he showed me a picture of some land in India that some people went and purchased. And they took and they just let life grow there. And in a short period of time, this land came back. And he pointed out that just going vegan, that's it. And I said, wow, that's it. I said, that's how you fight them, by going vegan. That one simple act right there. Many of us might think that, well, we don't have the resources or power to fight police brutality, to fight the system, which the DNA, which racism is in the DNA of police training, uh, the income inequality. But the one thing that we can all do, and we have the power to do, is choose not to eat animal food. That one act right there will create an exponential transformation in society in a relatively short period of time. So we do have the power, but it's important that we bring everybody under the same umbrella, so that, you know, our white brothers and sisters who are out there who are vegans, they're also saying Black Lives Matter. They're also concerned about income inequality. Uh, that we're also concerned about, you know, the growing disparity between the growing disparity between those who have the haves and the have not. So we hope that this conversation is the beginning to pulling us all together under one umbrella, and also spreading the message of veganism to people of color more. That this is the one tool, this is the one power that you have to change racism, to change income inequality, to better your community, to better your health. Because we know that most people are dying from this COVID disease are people of color. And the reason why people of color are dying in such a high proportion is that they have the pre-existing chronic degenerative diseases. And we here know that these diseases, they come from eating animal food. There's no other cause for it but eating animal food. So for people of color, we want to empower ourselves, improve our health, and improve our community. Going vegan is really the way to go. Once again, I want to thank everyone for being here.
Thanks, Melvin. I was going to say that this is your talk is quite resonating with a talk I just attended by Omowale Adiwale. He's a creator of the blackvegfest.org, and he talked very similar to what you were saying. And on his website, he has a 7-step things of what we can do to support Black Lives Matter, and in turn be an ally to that group. So I encourage everybody to check that link out. I put the link in the chat, and the 7 steps are also on his website. And he has a sort of like a pledge form to sign that you agree to it. And I've shared the screenshot couple of times. So really nice to meet you guys, and look forward to learning more today. Over.
Hi, if it's okay with everyone, I would love Dr. Rao to introduce himself and to contribute to the conversation next, if that's okay.
Thank you, Jackie. I'm Sailesh Rao. I started Climate Healers 13 years ago, but this is really, I'm here to listen to you. I want to hear from you. So I would like to give it back to Jackie.
And during the 24-hour block party, during all of our meetings, no one is obligated to speak. And I'm going to tag Jamin in to explain how we can contribute to the conversation. But if Dr. Tar, because we do have a vegan physician with us, if she feels you know, that she wants to contribute and her background, I would love to have her contribute.
Hi everyone, my name is Sanda Matar. I'm a third-year podiatry resident, currently in Cleveland, Ohio, finishing up my residency. My goal is to move to Phoenix actually at the end of the year, so I'll be closer to some of you, if not all of you. I guess my vegan story, I'll start with that. I became vegan probably 6 years ago. At that time, I was probably my first year in podiatry school. For me, I think one of the driving factors was seeing the patients that I was seeing in school clinics on a daily basis, and seeing a lot of patients that podiatrists deal with have complications from diabetes that manifest in their feet or legs. It's usually ulcerations, which leads to hospital stays, amputations, and then eventually death within the next 5 years. They say mortality rate for traumatic amputations is 50% within 5 years. So half of people that undergo a non-traumatic amputation are dead, and that's very valid. So for me, being vegan, eating plant-based is directly linked to that, because I want to show my patients that there is a better way, that there is another way to live, that you can start to regain your life. And I think, especially in relation to, like Mr. Melvin was saying, COVID-19 and being predisposed to certain diseases amongst Black Americans, for me, it's very important. Living in Cleveland, you know, the population here is probably 50% African American or Black American, and majority of my patients, I would say over 75 to 80% are the ones that are getting amputations are Black American. So, you know, for me to be a representative in a way to say, hey, my brother, my sister, I can do this, you can do this too. Healthy eating is for us. You know, it's not a quote unquote white thing, it's a everybody thing. I hear that sometimes from Black patients that, oh, chitlins are my culture, fried chicken is my culture. And that might be true to a certain extent in America, but then, you know, you have to ask yourself, and sometimes I ask them, what do you think your brothers and sisters in the motherland are eating? I'm Liberian. I was born in the US, but my parents came here in the 1980s, so I'm first generation. So I grew up eating Liberian food, and West African food is predominantly plants, you know? You eat meat sometimes, but meals are centered around plants. Meat is a garnish, and in Liberia and other countries in Africa, if not the rest of the world, meat is a luxury. It's not something you eat every day, and it's not something that you eat a lot of, and if you can't afford it, you can't afford it. So, you know, I say all that to say that really this is my goal, is to help people really keep their livelihood, keep their limbs, and really change their lives through diet and lifestyle and things like that. So thank you to Jackie from Seeds to Inspire for having me today. I'm really excited to listen to everyone and to hear your perspectives as well, and to learn from you as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for accepting our invitation. We really appreciate you being here. Now, I would love to invite Jackie and Gavin into the conversation, because we've had, you know, we've worked events before. We've talked about how we feel that this are our choices, to at least for me, and I'll let them speak for themselves, but choosing veganism initially was a health choice. And as I learned, it became environmental and an animal rights choice. It really wasn't until, and my sister from that I work with, the ACLU, she just joined us. I won't put her on the spot. She can contribute if she wishes, but we were education activists, and we were fighting with the ACLU against the discrimination against our Black and brown communities, our children that learn differently. And it was when I learned enough about the injustices to the animals, about the injustices to earth, and about the social injustices with animal agriculture in our Black and brown communities, that I made the connection to my activism for education. And that's when everything came together. And everything I learned from Will Tuttle with the World Peace Diet, all the connections, working with Sailesh, it was just like, this is an oppression of consciousness. This is an assault on childhood. And this is a spiritual movement. You know, making these connections, remembering our interconnectedness with nature, with one another, and with ourselves. Like Sailesh always speaks, if our thoughts, the way we speak and our actions, are we truly aligned with the way we think, our image of who we think we are our actions truly aligned with that? And that's when I said, okay, this is something bigger going on. So I would love for Jackie and Gavin, because they are truly beautiful people, very spiritual people, to contribute to this conversation. You're muted.
Here we go. Okay. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much, Jackie, for once again inviting us to this platform. We are just so honored to be here. I think it's wonderful that we can get together like this to have these conversations because education is key. Listening is key, and I couldn't be more proud to be a part of this platform. Gavin and I have been vegan for going on 5 years now.
5 years. It'll be December, 5 years.
Yeah, I'm a month behind him. But we have just really, truly embraced the journey. The vegan journey for us, it was like the veil being lifted, you know, because it did start as a health thing, and just learning more and educating ourselves more about what it truly was to be vegan, because we first started plant-based. And then we just started to learn as we went, and then the compassion piece came into play, and now it's just like, oh my gosh, what have we been doing? You know, we've been living a life, a generational life, to where we were raised to eat meat and to, you know, eat animals. At one point in time, I do remember being young and just passing by a farm and just looking at the animals and just thinking, oh my gosh, like we're eating animals, and it's normal. Like it just didn't make sense to me. But then, you know, we just continued with our lifestyle. But now, so thankful that we're at a place to where the veil has been lifted, and we're able to educate our families and our friends that are around us, especially our next generation and our kids. So that's what we've been doing for the past 5 years. So I'll pass it on over to my husband.
Hi, everybody. My name is Gavin. I'm just really thankful, Jackie, that, you know, you are really taking the lead in bringing, you know, just us together to have these discussions, because this is where it starts. Mm-hmm. And I'm just so thankful that, you know, my wife and I have, just like she said, the veil has been lifted. I feel that we are still working, you know, within to become better every day. But where we're at right now, we can really, you know, make an impact just off of our journey of where we've been. And, you know, for me, I've had a lot of anger with the knowledge that's been hidden for so long. And I've learned how to really transition that into passion. I am an educator. I am a school teacher. I've been teaching for the past 7 years. And that's where all my passion and anger has really allocated to, is to our next generation. Because I reflect back on just my childhood and, you know, just being in school of just the limited options and resources that not only, you know, are limited to Black lives and the community, but just kids in general, you know, when it comes to cafeteria food, when it comes to just self-regulating skills to deal with things that are outside of school that are going on in the household and in the community, you know, to enhance their learning inside the classroom. So, you know, being able to be a vegan as well as be on a spiritual path through the journey of yoga has really made us a powerful unit to really make an impact into the education system. And, you know, that's where our passion is. That's where our heart is to really impact schools and the community around the schools of bringing the education piece. Because we're living in a structural racism, you know, environment, really in every school district. And specifically where I'm working at in the South Side in Levine, you know, there are no resources, you know, when it comes to families and, you know, Black families, Mexican families. I mean, just the whole diversity, you know, of children, you know, in the Levine School District that have an opportunity to even learn about this lifestyle that will change their life. And, you know, when I first started working there, I really became an observer of the surroundings of the community and started, you know, knocking on doors and really taking that internal reform of becoming, you know, a source that goes out and makes that change. Because as we know, you know, years ago, just with, you know, our whole Red for Ed, us teachers and you know, schools, we're not getting the resources and the materials that we need just off of the academic base. But when it comes to a mind, body, spirit base, and decreasing de-escalation incidences with students, that is just completely outside of really what the whole curriculum and academic focus is. And that needs to be the main focus. This, like, how are we reaching the whole child? Not necessarily just off of their academics, but their behavior internally, as well as at the home, educating the families. So, I'm just so thankful that we've connected, and I know I've spoke with Dr. Salish Rao and many other vegan, leaders in the community, and it's conversations like this that we can pull different tools and resources from each other to be that movement and be that change. Because, like I said before, we have to physically be that. We have to physically go out and do that, and not hope anymore, or just put our faith into somebody else that's gonna maybe bring our vision to life. We have to physically do that, and that's something that our passion is when it comes to kids. That we're gonna be those leaders for them, because they are our next world leaders, and we have to not treat the symptom, but prevent. We have to go to the root source of educating, of bringing, the educational resources, the organizations, powerful resources like all of us here on this meeting that can educate the families, that can add to the curriculum. Even though things are mandated, throughout the state, we can always add to it. And, that's where we feel that, real change is really gonna, impact families and our kids, because, they're our future. Mm-hmm. So, we just want to thank you guys for listening to our story. And Jackie, we're just so thankful for you. You're just a beautiful soul, and just keep bringing the sources spiritually connected, to really make this change. So thank you.
Thank you, Jackie and Gavin. As always, our hearts are one, and you inspire me, and you always are evidence that we're on the right path and we're doing the right thing and we're moving forward. I just like to take the opportunity to welcome, we have two representatives from the vegan fitness community, Vanessa Espinoza, my sister, who I miss dearly, Lillian Aguilar. So again, no pressure to speak, but if you're willing to contribute your vegan story as representing a person of color in the fitness community, we'd love to hear it.
I'd like to, since, to add more about my story that brought me to being a vegan. And it's because I have a very deep disdain for injustice, for the suffering that people around the world endure, whether it's in the Sudan, in Libya, or if it's in Mexico or China, here in the United States. When people around the world suffer, when babies crying, when people are dying unnecessarily, it hurts me. It rips something out of me. And when Sailesh introduced me to the power of veganism, I said, that's it. That's how I could fight these bastards. And that's been the driving thing. When you look at, I mentioned before, the chronic degenerative diseases that that's killing up everyone, but particularly Black people in higher percentages. Coronary heart disease, cancer, diabetes, you name it, high blood pressure, you name it, kidney problems, failure. And I said, I want to do something about it. We need to do something about it. And the only tool that I know that people can pick up right there on their own is being a vegan. And I mentioned earlier, if we want to fight against the system, and it's very powerful, it's overwhelming. when you look at the might of the state, the police force, the National Guard, Army, that's what we're going up against. When you look at how powerful they are and how they could come out in the instant and just wipe people out, and they would if the whoever is in charge say, hey, go over there and wipe them people out, they would come do it without a blink. But it's one thing we can do that they can't control. We could go vegan. When you look at all these here capos across the United States, it's in Chicago and Arkansas and Illinois, Iowa, California, everywhere, these here places where they are slaughtering animals. And you look at the community around those, it's people of color who are suffering and they can't get away from it. You look at the water, it just stench, and because the animal industry is such an integral part of the economy here, and powerful people benefit from that. They get rich off of it and more powerful. If we want to help those people, there's one thing we can do: stop eating animal food. If we stop eating animal food, and I'm saying this here is people of color, that's our power, is stop eating animal food. And then those conditions in Iowa and Arkansas will just vanish. They will go away. Something new will have to come into being. And we was talking about also earlier, how can our white vegan brothers and sisters, how to create that consciousness, that awareness within them, that hugging a chicken or going out and hugging a cow and crying because a cow is being slaughtered. But then when people of color have been slaughtered also, you say nothing. You silent on it. You're silent on it. You don't cry. This is very divisive. I have 2 daughters and they're pretty sharp. But when they look at Greta, they say that privileged white bee, she don't represent me. She don't know what I'm talking. She don't know what's going on. But I know I believe that Greta Hart is in the right place. But because she's not using language, see, it's important that our white vegan brothers and sisters start using this language. They have to start telling this narrative, not only that animal agriculture is cruel, they have to link the animal agriculture to racism, to injustices. And then that's how we can become unified. So how can we, in this here form, start, because we all got the awareness, we all know the connection. So how can we in this here form come up with a way to educate them, to bring them into, to let them know that we're looking at the whole, we're not just treating the leg of the elephant or the trunk of the elephant. The whole thing needs to be treated. We have to take a whole system approach. So when we just look at, okay, we want to heal the earth, we want to stop the cruelty to the animals, that is a reductionist approach. We have to take a whole system approach, a whole system healing approach. And how can we begin to educate them, to create that awareness that what you're doing is great, we appreciate what you're doing, but to be most effective, to have the greatest impact for bringing about the change that we want to change, it's important that you link the animal cruelty and the healing of the earth with social injustice, with racism, with economic inequality, that we link it there. And I also want to go as far as to say, I know Jackie have said, and we all say Sailesh's vision. This is not Sailesh's vision. This is our vision. Vegan World 26, this is our vision. This is our vision. How can we link them to the 7 core changes that we need to make? How can we help them to become part of the greatest transformation in human history? And I think I like to look at let's look at the root cause. Let's look at linchpin. Let's look at linchpin. If you want to make a significant change, and there's a linchpin that's holding it all together. And when what Sailesh has shared with us, the greatest transformation in the world, these 7 core things that we can do to bring about this is the key. I think it's very important that we coalesce around a common language. A really common language is when you look at any social change that has happened in the world, and I happen to be fortunate to do a lot of studying of the big social change that happened in China under Mao Zedong, and also Lenin and all those people, and even all over the world. There's one thing that they had. They had a unifying force. They had even Gandhi. They had one thing where everybody talking the same language. And it's very important, I think, us going forward, if we want to bring our white vegan brothers and sisters under, we have, and I think the unifying thing is we are about making the greatest transformation in human history. And to do that transformation, here are the 7 core things that must occur. And I think most of us here are familiar with those things. I think that can help create that awareness. So what I'm saying here among us, how can we begin that process of being most effective in educating and bringing our white vegan brothers and sisters, so we can all be on the same page. So we could be all on the same page and being most effective, because you cannot get rid of racism long as animal agriculture exists. And you cannot end animal agriculture and heal the earth while racism and social injustice exist. They all come from the same disease. So one of the things at Collective Intelligence, we talk about this stuff, and Jamin is on to something really, really big we talking about doing. So we have to look at, I think it's very important that we start coming up with a unifying, something that draws all together. And I think one thing, and maybe this is me, the 7 core shift that Sailesh talked about, and being part of the greatest transformation in human history, because it is. It's the greatest transformation in human history, because when you look at history before, what we're facing right now is human cause. There has been times when there have been other quote unquote end of life on the earth as people know it. There's been other times when the earth froze and all life as we knew it was frozen and then got warm again and life came back again. But what we're looking at right now is human cause. And it is really, I think it's also important that we speak with a voice of urgency, because climate scientists and others are saying, well, about 2030, 2050, it's going to be gone. No, it's going to happen sooner than that. It's going to happen sooner than that. When we look at the 9 planetary boundaries, we have already crossed 4 of them. And the other one of them are stretched thin. And when you get to a certain tipping point, it's a done deal. And we're gone. So I think it's so many of us on this trying to do the same thing, but we disjointed, we disunit. And that's one of the things that Mao Zedong did. He brought everybody under one count. You know, that's the thing that Gandhi did. He was able to bring everybody under one count. So we have to bring everybody under one count. And I think the story that Sailesh's tell is a story that can get us under that count, the greatest transformation in human history. And these are the 7 core shifts that we have to make, because they touch everything. There's one thing that I really appreciate all of the 7 core shifts, but the 7th point that Sailesh talking about is transitioning from a profit money-driven economy to a service-driven economy. That is at the key. And I think it's important that everyone that want to try to make this shift to changing the world, that we have a concept of what we want to shift to, because we can get rid of animal agriculture, we can do all of that stuff. But if we don't make a shift in the money, it's going to be the same thing repackaged over again. It's going to be the same thing repackaged over again. And it do it real slick, just like the new Green Deal. That's just repackaging the same stuff. So I think a unifying thing for us, if we can be all under unifying message, a narrative, a story, and that is the greatest transformation in the world, and those 7 core shifts.
Thank you,
Hi,
Melvin.
everyone. Can you hear me? Oh,
I'm sorry, Jamie was in the queue. So if Jamie, if you could take this opportunity to help us understand how we can raise our hands and get in the queue, and if you could moderate that for me, that'd be great.
Oh, very happy to, Jackie. Welcome, everyone. So happy to see everyone here. So basically, if you'd like to speak, go ahead and either raise your hand electronically by clicking on participants and then raise hand, or you can also just type your name into the chat window if you prefer, or just if all else fails, just do that and we'll get you in the queue. So we've got Lillian in the queue. Is there anyone else in the queue, Jackie? Nope. Okay. And do we want to establish like a time limit per speaker, or just kind of let it flow naturally? Let it flow, I think, is what Silas is saying. Okay, great. All right, Lillian, you have the floor. Welcome. Great to see you, and go for it.
Hi, everyone. Sorry, Jackie, didn't mean to interrupt you right there. But thank you so much to the members from Seeds to Inspire for inviting me. And I just wanted to share a little bit about my vegan story. And I have been vegan for almost 19 years now. I actually became vegan when I was 14 years old, when I started volunteering in an animal shelter. And it was through the other volunteers that I learned about everything that happens to animals so that they can become food and products for us to consume. And as soon as I found out everything that happens to animals, I just could not continue to contribute to it. So I went vegan immediately. So I'm an ethical vegan first, and it was by accident that I actually found the health benefits of a plant-based diet. And through time, I also learned about the environmental impact of the animal agriculture and how we would all benefit from a plant-based diet, and how we can help the animals and how we can help the earth. And throughout my years of veganism, I have seen a lot of different types of vegan, if I can say. But I think there's one thing that unifies us, is that we all want to do better, and we all want to provide a better future for our children and for the animals and for the earth. And I personally have been through different types of discrimination as a Mexican woman and also as an immigrant. And I have seen how a lot of the same discriminations and a lot of the same beliefs apply to veganism, and how we all can play an important role in educating people and sharing how if you fight for one type of justice, you really have to fight for all forms of justice, because it's all tied together. And the more we contribute to different causes and to eliminate all forms of discrimination, whether it's based on race, whether it's based on where you come from, whether it's based on species, I think that it's very important that we all step up and we all start speaking up even more and educating our communities. And that's why I'm here, because I want to learn how I can do better as well. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you, Lillian.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Y bienvenida.
Hello?
Yes, yes. Oh, yeah, Nancy, go for it.
I'm so grateful for this meeting. I actually thought I was joining a different meeting. And then I saw Jamie and I said, what's he doing here? And then I said, well, I'll stay and see what's happening. And I'm just so riveted by everything that's being said, because I consider myself an animal activist, but for so long now, I've been feeling like I just can't just go, it's all about the animals. And I feel so hypocritical of vegans who are saying they're fighting for justice. And yet, as it was mentioned earlier, that why don't we equally fight for, the Black Lives Matter? And I just saw a post, and I don't, like, we don't even know about how many people are just have been brutally killed. Black people in their homes, in their yards, or on the street, just walking, innocently. And it's just, and I feel like that this whole, like, I'm vegan for the animals and the animals and the animals is like, yeah, well, of course we get that, but it feels like a big, I hate the word blind because I feel like that's a prejudiced term too, but blind spot, in vegan activism. So I'm very grateful for this. And I was thinking that just in the same way, when I was talking earlier about when we're calling for a change of behavior, how before we do that, we have to also understand why that behavior exists and what are the barriers to those changes and address that up front. And I was thinking that for animal activists, it would maybe be helpful to phrase it in the word like, okay, getting behind this cause is also, why it's important for the animals. And I don't know. I don't know if that would even be appropriate or not, but it's just so important to address this. So thank you.
Hi, if I may contribute something to that. I was having a very interesting conversation with a friend of mine this week. And the question came up, how, as a white person, how do I respond without offending? Because when I try to respond, I wind up offending. And then when I ask, well, can you teach me what I did wrong? Then I get pushback and I get anger because I'm asking the questions. How do I respond to that? And this is really what gave birth to this idea. Was that same evening I was meditating on it. And I was like, my goal, and again, this is just my goal for this meeting. This is a co-creation. So we all came in with intentions that are all equally as valid. My goal is that one, how do we help our Black and Brown communities, our Indigenous communities? And like we said, we're all Indigenous. We were just all either colonized where we lived or we were kidnapped and brought over. We were all Indigenous. How do we help our communities prevent, especially the children, from becoming the first climate refugees? Because it's what's going to happen. We're already there. How do we bring this awareness, and how do we help mitigate the fear and understand that we do have solutions and we can work together, and we can not only survive this, we can thrive and be better, because this is not just about changing the way we eat. Like Melvin was saying, how Sailesh helped us to awaken to and remember is that this is a human transformation. As humanity, we have to evolve. In this age of Aquarius, this is no longer about being teaching. This is about honoring our truth, our wisdom, our own inner knowing. And what I contributed to the conversation with my friend was, I think as a person of color that's a vegan, I think what used to offend me was that animal agriculture, when we learn about it, we realize, my gosh, it's so obvious. How did we not see this before? Like it just blows your mind how it's right in front of you. You can't see it. But yet you're still blind to what is so obvious and happens every single day in our country and all over the world, is Black and Brown people are just murdered right in the streets. It's on the news, it's happening all the time, but that still stays under the radar. It's not brought to the awareness that motivates and inspires that action, that heartfelt action. If you're walking down the street and you see someone beating up their kid, you don't think about it, you jump into action. You see someone kicking their dog, it doesn't go through the intellect. That is a heart-rendered response. Where's that? And I don't think that it's not from the heart. I think that there's still an awareness and a fog. So how do we create an environment that's safe, that we can come together and help educate others without any judgment, right? Because we're all in this together. How do we eliminate that fog? And then how do we go and how do we educate our community members? So how can we reflect? How can we be that image, that mirror to our community members, to help them understand the connections we've made and our obligation to help them realize that the oppression, the injustices that maintain in place, we vote them with our dollars every single day. We vote that oppression to maintain that knee on our necks because of the way we choose. And this is not about blame. This is about an unawareness. This is about an unconsciousness. I truly believe in humanity, and I truly believe that we are all want to be the best that we can be. We just don't know enough, and we are just tired. We are in despair. We are exhausted. We are tired of being afraid. We're tired of worrying about things that people of privilege don't have to worry about. So we have a certain amount of energy that we can, like, you know, where awareness goes, energy flows. It's like, where am I going to put my energy? Am I going to survive? Or am I going to go in this direction? How do we help them understand that we don't have to be in that despair when we make this choice? Everything kind of cascades easier. We regain health. The way we think is different. The way we interact with one another is more compassionate. There's a transformation when we adopt a more compassionate lifestyle. And how do we get that message out, that this is a gift to ourselves and our communities? And we can also, with that same movement, we can take this establishment down. We don't have to continue to live this way. There is another way. And we are actively creating this new world. How do we help people see it? And then how do we go and usher them in lovingly and invite them in and help them believe in this world that we're co-creating?
Beautiful, beautiful, Jackie. Alrighty, we've got Jyoti in the queue, followed by Jamin, followed by Silas. Take it away, Jyoti.
Thank you. And how do you say your name? Jamin or somebody?
Jamin.
Also, right? Okay.
Jamin. Mm-hmm.
Perfect. Thank you, Jamin. It's
Sure.
very inspiring to hear. And Jackie, thanks for raising some of the questions. And I had similar questions. Is just to give a background, I've been going to all these protests, and after my mom passed away from heart disease, I became a nurse in her memory, and then I wanted to cherish her memory. So whenever I'm outside the house or in public place, I always wear my vegan shirt. And even at work, I work at a hospital. I'm a nurse, and they don't let me wear the vegan shirt, so I wear a see-through shirt on top of my shirt, vegan shirt, so that they can see that it is vegan. So I was at the protest, and I was wearing my vegan shirt, and I had my sign, very ginger. I had a sign on top of it. One side said "Justice for MR" or "Justice for George Floyd," and the other side said "Vegan for MR" and "Vegan for George Floyd." And I got a lot of positive response, but there are several people who were also angry at me, saying that this is not the time, or this is not the place, and they were disproved, albeit very, very few of them. So my question is that how do you be intersectional, support this, which is done for a long time, but it's more visible now for the African American community. Be there to support, and at the same time also make them see the way to going plant-based, and proving that you are on their side. And when you say being vegan, you're not coming from a privilege side, that hey, like you have the money so you can buy food. We have food deserts, we can't buy food, and which is a very valid point. So how do we make them see our perspective while supporting them and standing on their side, and not coming across preachy? So over.
Thank you, Jyoti. Would anyone like to respond before we continue with the queue? Yes, please. Go ahead, Doctor.
I think, especially in this country, like a lot of people have mentioned, one of the big determinants to eating healthy, let alone going vegan, is food deserts and zoning laws, things like that. I went to Veg Fest Atlanta. I want to say it was 2016, and David Carter, I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with him. He's a retired NFL player, vegan of color, was talking about food deserts and pretty much just food inequality within the system in the United States, and determinants to especially having vegans of color or just people of color in general eating healthily. And that's one of them. I never really thought about it until I went to his lecture. I'm someone that grew up in the suburbs. Both of my parents are highly educated, so that wasn't really a thing that was on my radar. Wherever I lived, there was 4, 5, 6 grocery stores within a 5-minute driving radius. It wasn't ignorantly, I say now, and I'm kind of embarrassed to admit that, until I went to his lecture. And then I started thinking about things, why you don't see a McDonald's on Rodeo Drive or Fifth Avenue in New York, or certain, upper echelon places in America, but you will see McDonald's and corner stores in the ghettos, in the hoods across America. So I think, where the vegan movement falls short is addressing those issues, because those are very real determinants. It's easy for someone like me that has a car, that lives in a decent part of Cleveland with 4 or 5 grocery stores around me, to just go to said grocery store and pick up produce and come home. But if you're living, let's say, in East Cleveland, and you have to take a bus 30, 45 minutes across town and carry those bags, it's just, those are the real life circumstances of a lot of people in this nation. And, unfortunately, the vegan movement is very quick to chant, go vegan, but there are certain barriers to going vegan for certain groups of people. It's honestly not as easy. It's not as easy, I had a period in college where I was living in Bed-Stuy, pre-gentrification Bed-Stuy. And so it's very different from Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn now. And where I lived, there was no grocery stores. So that was long before I was vegan. I was eating, corner store food, a lot of meat, a lot of animal products, a lot of processed food, not thinking about it, because the closest grocery store was so far. So I think that's the biggest thing, is being aware of those barriers to healthy eating, let alone vegan eating, in the African American community in this country, and being able to address them and kind of provide, I think, like a game plan to circumnavigate those things. I think once the movement does that, then you'll notice a lot more African Americans joining it. One of the things, so yeah.
Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you, Doctor.
Doctor,
Baltimore.
There's a very big Black community here, and a couple of fabulous all vegan restaurants, and they have Vegan Soul Fest. Have you heard of that? Every summer, and I think it's still planned. But I learned so much about the Black community and about being white, and that I never knew before. So thank you.
Beautiful. All right, and Jackie, and I'm sorry, what's your husband's name?
Gavin.
Gavin. Did you want to respond to?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Good.
I kind of wanted just to piggyback off of Dr. Is it Demater?
Sotomar?
Sotomar?
Last name Tar.
Tar. Okay, sorry. So it's funny because you bring up David Carter, and we get a lot of questions of, just being in a public school, like, how did you guys, implement yoga? How did you guys implement plant-based, eating and education without getting backlash? Well, as parents, we all know that, when our kids want something, we'll go through the roof to get it for them. And, as being a teacher, some advice that I would give just to the community, with trying to educate those that, will respond in a way that is not so loving or caring or really understanding, from a place that they're not educated about, is really getting to know the school districts, getting to know the actual campuses, because at every school, there's at least one runner, which is one teacher that is either on the vegan, plant-based lifestyle, or that knows somebody from another school that is on that lifestyle. And as educators, we're trying to go above and beyond every day for our kids with, implementing resources or before or after school programs. So attending school board meetings and really getting involved into the schools, that's a way to really open a door to bring the information, to the campus. It may not be in the 7-hour block throughout the day, but you will always have an opportunity to start something, which it may be just, you know, like a parent university that, you know, can bring information, you know, to the parents and families, because as educators, we yearn for parents to be involved, you know, into the academics, into the curriculum, into events, you know, doing things that bring just more livelihood and brings all stakeholders, you know, to the school and the campus. So, you know, what my wife and I did our first year, you know, we went full throttle trying to champion, you know, going vegan and plant-based, and, you know, we hit a wall, but we didn't stop. You know, we paused for a little bit and just put our heads together, and, you know, we started our own after school program. And that's where we started to reach out, you know, to different resources. And we reached out to our district wellness committee, and really joined forces with them. And then there's around maybe 2 miles down from our campus is the Humane Society. So we connected with them. They had connections with David Carter. So we gave David Carter a call, and we put together a whole event at our campus to where we had a gym full of over 500 students, and David Carter came out. We reached out to the news station. They came out, interviewed David Carter, a lot of the kids. You know, so that started the spark. Just by doing that, you have to get involved into schools. You have to get to know the teachers, know exactly what they're doing inside, outside the classroom, and just know the community. And you will find at least one teacher that wants to really push this, because this is what is needed. Their kids don't have options, you know, when it comes to cafeteria food. And we wonder why so many kids are being pulled out of classroom, losing lots of instructional time because their stomach is hurting after lunch or after breakfast, or they're having headaches. And then that turns into an emotional response to where it's full of anger, you know, because of all the hormones and all the energies that they're eating from these animals. And then we have a whole list of behavior issues. So, you know, to de-escalate, you know, that data and drop that data, we have to start teaching a different way. We have to start adding, you know, to what's already mandated, you know, throughout the day in school. So getting involved, joining PTOs, parent-teacher conferences. We have to, as adults, as parents, get involved into our kids' education. And we can bring so much education to these families that are just so judgmental about, you know, jumping onto this lifestyle and this pathway that is going to change their life. You know, the hardest part is just starting. And so that's what's worked for us is just taking one step at a time and really getting to know the community and starting our own program. But like I said, there's always teachers that want to, you know, start a committee, start a leadership committee at their school, and they just don't have the support either from other educators. But when it comes to, you know, families and parents, they're willing to do it, but it's just keeping them accountable to carry it on, you know, throughout the school year and to keep it going. So I hope that answers, or that can help, you know, those families or anybody that, you know, is trying to implement, you know, veganism and more peace and kindness, you know, within, you know, their family. Get involved into the schools, and I almost guarantee you're going to find at least one teacher that is right there with you, you know, with that mindset, and they're going to be your runner. So.
Yeah. I wanted to add just something really quick to that. I think it's huge. The schools, like my husband was talking about, that's a huge start. And also outside of the schools, I think it's really important that we make ourselves available. Because it's very hard to talk to somebody who's not there yet. We can only meet people where they're at that point. Right. But when you continue to lead by example, and continue to lead by your lifestyle, and continue to be just a true, authentic person, a pure person with good intention, people are going to remember that around you. They're going to be like, well, you know, I know that Jackie or Gavin, they're vegans. They're just, always trying to help the community, just putting yourself out there. And trust me, those calls will come when they want a change in their life, a change in their lifestyle. And the more available you become, the more that you put your lifestyle out there, the more lives that you're going to change. And it does start with kids, because we've had many families come to us, many families that we have helped transition into a vegan lifestyle. So availability and continuing to lead by example.
Yeah, definitely.
Beautiful. Great stuff, Jackie, Gavin. Alrighty, next in the queue, we've got Jamin, followed by Silas. And feel free to just raise your hand electronically or type your name in the chat box if you'd like to get in the queue. We want to hear from everyone, definitely. Brother Melvin, good to see you. And I want to address your earlier question, how do we, how fundamentally, what's it going to take for everyone to care, right, about our Black brothers and sisters and all the injustices? And I just want to speak from my own experience, which will lead me to my recommendation. Okay. So I grew up, as you know, Melvin, we traveled together with Silas, with Jackie in the East Bay, Berkeley, that whole area, the East Bay of the San Francisco Bay Area. And that's where I mostly grew up. And that's one, in my experience, that is simply the most integrated, racially, ethnically integrated place in the world that I know of, that I've ever seen. And I attribute it to the University of California at Berkeley, all the foreign students who come in. So growing up, I literally had no concept of racism. I mean, zero. My best friend was Black, Trevor. We would just be playing baseball all the time, getting into trouble. My cross the street neighbor, Mrs. Joyce Jackson, was the mayor of Albany, the mayor of our city. And this is in the 1970s and 1980s. So, and we had everyone under the sun, every race, every ethnicity. And it was all normal. And it was just wonderful, just this wonderful diversity. I actually had to move to Seattle, Washington at the age of 12 to learn about racism in the United States. And what a shocker, right? And what a heartbreaker, right? That now not everyone can be my friend, apparently, right? I got beaten up my first week of class because I was just wandering around the school alone, just being myself. And I stumbled upon a group of Black boys and they just beat me up because I was kind of just alone, I guess. I don't know. And I was just terrified, right? That was the heartbreak that, I now have to kind of filter and be careful and not be alone and, that sort of thing. So what am I getting at? What I'm getting at is that my experience in the San Francisco Bay Area was very unique and very special, and I'm super grateful for that. And we can recreate that by bringing people together. Proximity. How is it that I, had so many Black friends? Proximity. We were neighbors. We played together. We were on the same baseball team. It was just what we did. And so it was natural. We now have this gigantic opportunity for proximity right here in this network of conversations, this network of transformational conversations, like we have every week on the Block Party for a full 24 hours, like the Solution Club, like myriad meetings on Vegan World 2026. And also another thing, it's well known, one great way to bring two communities together or bring a community together is to eat together. And so our food healers movement, kicked off by Silas and now supported by all of us as it's rapidly evolving. Silas, Jackie, those who really mainly kicked it off, Myra, et cetera, just all of you really, too numerous to acknowledge all. But anyway, that movement is bringing us together, and it's bringing peoples across the world together. And it gives us something to work on together. So as we're rubbing elbows, right? Black, white, brown, all the rainbow. And as we're feeding everyone, all of our brothers and sisters, and that is the goal, to feed everyone by delivering the foods to their homes. and that it's plant-based, that's like, you know, it checks every single checkbox. And look at how it's bringing us together, right? And also, this is a very safe space. We're creating very safe spaces for communication, collaboration, co-creation. And Melvin, you articulated that better than anyone in the 45-minute video that we recorded a couple weeks back. And I'll make sure we get the link to that into this video recording, just as a reference point for that conversation you led. But anyway, those are my thoughts. Melvin, brother, I don't know if you have something you want to respond to that, or just let others add to that as you wish. The next in the queue is Silas. But you know, here's what we do. Here's like another, Jackie asked me to talk about the rules. One other rule that we're already doing is if somebody puts out a question or says something, and then others want to give kind of a short response, it's okay to jump the queue to do that. So like, let's say Melvin said, ooh, I want to respond real quick. Well, Silas is next in the queue, but that's okay because Melvin wants to do just like a very timely and maybe concise response to what I just said. Everyone see what I'm saying? Okay, so quick responses, no problem. Silas is next in the queue. And let's see. Oh yeah, I'll put the link in the chat box here as well. Thank you, BJ. All righty. Any quick responses? And welcome, Mike, who just joined us. And all right, take it away, Silas.
Thank you so much, Jamin. Thank you, Jackie, for organizing this. Thank you, Melvin and Dr. Tar, for your input. It was educational, really. And I wanted to bring to this conversation the concept of dietary racism that Dr. Milton Mills has been talking about. And especially with respect to what we are doing to our school children. You know, this is USDA policy. I mean, the USDA now has, I think until next week, we can still submit comments to the USDA, and please ask them to stop promoting dairy as a food group, because they're promoting dairy as a food group. In the current recommendations, you have to drink dairy or consume dairy 3 times a day or 3 servings per day, and 70% of African Americans are lactose intolerant, and it is awful what they're trying to do, because that means that 70% of the African American children are going to be sick when they come and have breakfast at school, because the school meals are all based on the USDA guidelines. So that's how they are sending, you know, what kids have to eat. And so then they get sick and they cannot concentrate on their schoolwork, and then they fall behind. I mean, why are we surprised that this is what's going on? And then once they are overcoming it, then along comes lunch with another serving of dairy. So they're back in the same situation again. And this is systemic racism. This is racism to keep people down, knowing fully well that they are lactose intolerant, because these statistics are known. It's not like they didn't know. And so please put a comment in if we can get the USDA to stop that. And I think the more vocal we are, the easier it would be. And I'm going to put the link on the chat box. So it's a campaign started by Switch for Good. It's called Ban Dietary Racism. And so that takes you straight to the a form where you can fill in, and then that sends a comment to the USDA asking them to stop having dairy as a recommendation. And if they get enough comments, they have to address it. So I think the limit is about 20% of the comments have to be done. So please do that, and please send it to your networks and get more people to do that, because we need to address these root causes, these systemic causes of the racism at the root. And then the other thing I think we could do as a community is to cook or make vegan food and give it to our Black brothers and sisters when they're out there fighting for fighting, and demonstrating out there. So let's go out there and start giving them food that is nourishing and healthy. So that, because we know that they're in food deserts where it's harder to eat healthy food. So we have a system that is deliberately subsidizing bad food, and so that the bad food is more available in poor communities because it's heavily subsidized. And it's a systemic. Yeah, so we have to build a new system, but we need to raise the awareness of people and make sure that they understand what is really going on, so that they can see through what they're trying to do to them, and therefore take the necessary step, like what Melvin did. So thank you very much for this forum, and thank you all for your input.
All right. Would anyone like to, yeah, Melvin, go for it, bro.
We all storytellers, and life is one big story with a lot of different twists and turns. And I think it's important that when we're telling the story about this change that we want to make to how we can contribute to the healthy evolution of life, it's important that we weave in social injustices and racism in our stories. I've heard I can't think of her name, so I'll let you know what I'm talking about. The doctor, she's spoken often on collective intelligence. Every time
Dr. Naik. Naik.
Yes,
N-A-I-K.
every time she speaks, she prefaces everything with the underserved communities and racism and the income inequality in healthcare. And I think that's the story she tells. And I think, I mentioned earlier, what can we do to help, to bridge this gap so there won't be so much divisiveness in the movement. What we're trying to do is that we all start our stories telling stories about racial injustice, social injustice, income inequality, while we're talking about including that with animal abuse and trying to heal the earth. Our conversations, our stories have to include those. As I said, one of the reasons why my daughters and some other young ladies, they don't like Greta, because they don't feel that she's relatable because of the language she uses. And they don't know that Greta really wants to make life better for them, social condition better, but better for them. But because of the language she's using, she's not resonating with them. So one of the things that I think is important for us to do, and also to try to create that awareness with our white brothers and sisters, that they have to tell their story. When they tell them the story of animal abuse, they have to tie it right into social injustice and racism. When it's so sad that George Floyd is a household name, that he became a household name because he got murdered. That's very sad. That's how he became into our consciousness. And it's almost clear that, his racism was the underpinning of this here murder. So it's very important that everyone in this here, what we're trying to do, part of the story that we tell as storytellers, that part of the narrative be about not only ending animal abuse and healing the earth, but we have to deliberately and consciously say we're addressing racism and social injustices, just in our stories. So that's one of the things that I think that we can encourage our vegan white friends, you know, in the white community to do, to when they telling the stories, to link it to animal, to link it to social injustices and racism.
And Melvin, and we've had these conversations at length, and I think we have to put that mirror in front of our own communities to make that connection between the violence that we see. How do we have to change our language so that we can shine that light and reflection to say this system, what you're seeing is tied to the animal agriculture. I think it's a lesson on both. You know, we have to educate them to understand that our message is, we love you so much. We're fighting for the animals, we're fighting for the earth because we're fighting for you. We're fighting for your health. We're fighting for your opportunity to live your best life. You don't understand that you are also being factory farmed. You don't understand that you're part of the system that maintains all of this in place. And I think that's why Cease to Inspire was born, was to bring that awareness so people can make informed, educated choices for what's best for them, their family members, and then ripple that into the community. We don't know enough. Systematically, we are not taught all the things that we should be taught. Compulsory education makes sure that we stifle creativity, that we stifle that curiosity, that children don't actualize their true nature and allowed to explore who they are and find how they can contribute authentically. We don't celebrate neurodiversity. All of that has been eliminated from us. And those are all social injustices. And you can see it all stemming from the same root cause of how we see life, how we commodify life, how everything is a currency, everything is transactional. And that's not who we are. And that's why I think Melvin and I really, these conversations we have is about really understanding that we are all one, that we're all the same, and that we are all evolving with our mother. We are all evolving, and it is time for humanity to evolve into the next version, the next iteration of who we are and what we're born to do. And we're here to filter through these vessels consciousness onto the planet and bring healing. And we owe it to ourselves to treasure these vessels, to see our bodies as a gift, to honor this cathedral that we get to live in, and use this and be the creators that we are. And if we regain health and vitality, then we can truly be that conduit from the divine to bring about healing and consciousness onto the planet.
Ashe, Ashe.
Beautiful, beautiful. Any other quick responses to what Brother Melvin, Sister Jackie said? Jackie, and Brother Galvin. So you got your hand up. Go for it.
Jackie, thank you so much. You hit the nail on the head with that. And Melvin, thank you so much as well for just speaking the truth into our hearts and, just holding this space for everyone. I did want to also talk about, earlier today, Gavin and I were watching a video where Erica Ford was a part of it. I'm not too sure if you guys know who she is, but just to keep it short, you can look her up. She's doing amazing things. She's an advocate for gun control and for peace. And earlier today, she had said that racism is a disease, and that's what we're dealing with right now. And to get to the root of the disease, not only is it about nutrition through our food, but also bringing that awareness to having a total body health. So checking in with ourselves mentally, making sure that we're doing breathing, that we're meditating. And meditation comes in all kinds of different forms, from going outside to do grounding and earthing, to being one with our breath. And we have to make sure that we're checking in with ourselves to do that, and to also be aware of what we're up against when it comes to racism. And Erica also mentioned that we have to switch our lifestyles to living a lifestyle of peace. And vegan is that, vegan is a lifestyle of peace. And that's what we have to continue to educate and spread the word out there. But most importantly, we have to make sure that we're checking in with ourselves first, so that we can be those vessels to go out there and to educate and to hold space for people and to guide them into the right paths without feeling that we're throwing up on them or anything. Just like I said earlier, just making ourselves available to create that space for them and introducing them to a new lifestyle in a loving and compassionate way.
Beautiful. All right. I'm checking. I don't see anyone in. So go for it. So from London.
I was reading up on and watching a lot of YouTube videos about the Freedom School.
Hey, so you're very faint and a little.
Oh, okay. Can you hear me now?
Better now. Better now. Yeah.
Okay, I was watching lots of YouTube videos on the Freedom Schools of the Civil Rights Movement. You know, the black children were prevented from education, and the summer before schools were being put in place and the children could go to school, there was a movement to educate all the children on how they've been abused racially, you know, the history of slavery and all that. It's really interesting. I put a link. I mean, all you black people will know all about it already, I expect, but I thought it would be quite a good model for perhaps bringing in plant-based education, race, all the intersections through some kind of summer school. Did you manage to hear that?
Yes, we did. Very loud and clear. Thank you. So appreciate that.
Thank you.
Well, I totally agree with So. Like I mentioned a few minutes ago, that's where I met my black friends, was in school or neighbors just around the neighborhood. Actually, first it was around the neighborhood before I even went to school. We would just be roaming around the neighborhood together. So summer school is a brilliant mechanism for that. For us grown-ups, these Zoom video conferences, and even kids, appropriately, moderated, safe environments for kids to interact over this medium. Why not, right? They're homebound and need to socialize as much as we do. It's a perfect environment because the segregations so often are geographical, by neighborhood, by city, by state even. So this brings people together regardless of geography because the focus is topical, right? And feeding everyone. What a great topic to bring everyone together. So taking advantage of the fact that there's nobody in the queue to get up on my little soapbox. All
I'd like
right.
to contribute something. And speaking about proximity, and I know we have the unique opportunity now because we're all, on video, but I think about like proximity. What I think about is growing up in the projects in New York, and we've talked about this. And the proximity that I remember was the government bringing in the Velveeta brick of cheese, and everyone in the neighborhood going and standing on a line, to go get this huge block of just nonsense and fakeness. And we thought that was such a gift. What a gift. We didn't have to worry about that for so long. And that's what I remember. Like that's in my pain body. And I think what brings peace to that is the initiative that we've been working on, is the food healers, is the Operation Stone Soup, is the knowing that we can bring not only consciousness, but we can bring that love in the food for free to people that need to eat. That I can go back to my community, not only shine a reflection of a regaining of health, and just really quickly, like when I went plant-based, I've lost 154 pounds. I reversed my hypertension, my diabetes. I used to be on medication for my anxiety. That's all gone. I'm on no medication. I just turned 48 last month, and I'm on no medication. I don't have any chronic pain. And to me, that's a blessing. How do we not go back to our communities and say, my gosh, do you know what I learned? Do you know what has happened since I just made this change? We also could appeal to to parents, because I think especially our children already suffer so much. There's so much discrimination. There's so much that we have to educate them on already just to go out onto the street and just exist. I didn't realize that I was harming them with what I was cooking. I thought every day I was loving my kids and I was loving them to death. And I didn't know it until one of my 14-year-olds wanted to be, the doctor was going to put him on statins. He had a little hole in his heart. He was, his cholesterol was too high. They were going to put him on diabetes medicine, and they were 14 years old. And it was just like, this is insanity. This is insane. And my eldest child passed away due to an allergic reaction to pharmaceuticals. So I was more invested to say, I'm not doing this with my kids. How do we help our community members that there's options, that this is not the way, this is not the only way, that we don't know everything. And going back to proximity, I think that the proximity I see when my culture was expanded was I had to leave my community and meet you where you were. So it wasn't until I went to private school or went to college that I started having multicultural friends that included white people. It wasn't that I was in my community. My community in New York in the projects, if you were not white, we were one. And so I think it's like when we speak proximity, I think we need to be a little sensitive to the people that code like us, that it doesn't mean the same thing for us all the time. And again, these conversations are the ones that are delicate, but this is a sacred space when we can have those honest back and forth and help each other understand that there's differences because of the different perspectives of this culture that we were born into, the prescriptions, like we were talking about, the stories that we've all inherited, and now that becomes a story with which we navigate our lives. And if we can learn more, we can create a new story for ourselves, and that will actualize and change our behaviors and our choices.
Beautiful, Jackie sister. All righty, Jyoti has his hand up. Go for it, Jyoti.
Oh, thanks. I'm just enamored hearing about all of this stuff. I wanted to bring in Mr. Dick Gregory, and I'm quite inspired by him because he's a civil rights activist and also a vegan activist. So I find solace in his leadership and his teachings, and I've been posting his stuff. So it's a tough time for me, but because I am relatively new to this movement. I've been vegan this is my 11th and only activist for 4 or 5 years, and just approaching different people of different people who are in different intersectional sections and in different groups is a new skill which I'm trying to learn and not be confrontational and not come across as preachy. In fact, the biggest problem or challenge I have is to talk to my family in India about not drinking dairy and just proving to them that you can be healthy by giving up animal products, or not. It's okay to. I've had a long conversation with my maternal aunt about how do I drink tea or coffee without dairy, without milk. So I was trying to tell her about different options, and she was saying, oh, we will do this little by little, not all of a sudden. And I was trying to explain to her. So Dick Gregory is a really good inspiration to me, and I'm ready to learn more as to how to approach Indians about giving up dairy. So any ideas, I would appreciate it. Over.
Beautiful, Jyoti. Well, I know you'll encounter in this community lots of great suggestions, recipes, whatnot. A lot of passion and love in that arena. Oh, Silas, did you want to? Yeah, go ahead, Silas.
Yeah, I wanted to just respond to Jyoti that we did a webinar on the 1st of June called The Price of Milk. So it was done on World Milk Day. And so I'll get you the link on YouTube and you can just look through that. And it was specifically addressed to the Indian audience.
Thank you, Dr. Rao.
Awesome. Thanks, Silas. All righty. So has her hand up. Go for it, So.
I managed to change someone's opinion on it, and he actually changed to vegan after I showed him a vegan bodybuilders movie.
Yeah, so many inspiring stories. Um, I mean, it's yet another area of life that just screams for collective intelligence to organize our different areas of knowledge and organize the people. When I say organize the people, what I really mean is just have a database of who's has what areas of knowledge, expertise, passion, etc. So that, you know, instead of having to look up for information, search for it, scan for it, this, that, watch different videos, no, just jump in and have a conversation with the right people who, in the case of veganism, will be delighted to show you, hold your hand and show you and tell you stories, right? And facts, and give you information and links and resources, right? I mean, what an honor for vegans to be able to help out their pre-vegan brothers and sisters work their way up the ladder, whether by a single leap and bound, like many have done, or gradual.
If we could take the last few minutes and kind of talk about food healers and how we're responding, I would love to just help everyone understand and give them an opportunity to either contribute to what we're doing, or at least give advice, or maybe come to the meetings. But we would love to invite everyone to this movement that we're working on.
Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, we'll have our next Food Healers meeting starting in 12 minutes. So right here. So don't go away. And we'll be talking all about food healers. And whoever would like to take give the first kind of contribution, whether of a summary or a description or your inspiration for it, Silas, who would like to jump?
Thank you so much. Actually, the name Food Healers was coined by Sarah Sagel. So she just blurted it out and said, it seems like that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to build a new system on the foundation of healthy, immune boosting, whole plant foods being easily available everywhere. So that, so it's the opposite of what we are doing today, which is making unhealthy animal foods easily available everywhere. Yeah, that's what we are doing today. So it's, how do you do that? How do you create the opposite? And so we started off by saying, okay, let's connect with restaurants and make them have whole food plant-based meals available. And then when people buy one, they gift one, so that you always have a gift meal available for you to go and look for. Or if someone says, I need food, and there is no one offering a gift meal, then someone can donate to say, yes, I can supply you. So this way we can, put like a color code a neighborhood, saying the neighborhood is red, meaning there is still need for food, or it's green, meaning everyone's needs are met. So that was the idea. It's how it started. And now it has morphed into, rather than restaurants participating in it, it's places of worship participating in it. Places of worship will be the ones who are creating this food and supplying it, and then they have a network of donors who will help fund it, and then they also are now shut down, so they don't have any donations coming in. So they're looking for a way to serve the community, and at the same time they have kitchens that are idle. So this now becomes a different food healers altogether. It's not a commercial thing anymore. It is much purer. It's about doing service to our community. It's about making sure that the churches are able to send good food to their congregation, or temples are able to send good food to their congregation. So I'll be talking about this with the Interfaith Vegan Coalition on Monday. Thank you, Jackie, for that. And so get more and more people excited about it. So people who hear about it, especially the faith community that hears about it, they are eager to help. And so they're all figuring out the mechanisms. And at the moment, we just are trying to implement it using spreadsheets. Okay, and using spreadsheets as the app is getting written. So we have a team developing an app in India for this, so that it can the network can happen almost anywhere in the world. Okay? So you find the right faith community in your neighborhood, and then they can cook the food. They advertise what it is that they're cooking for today, and then volunteers go and deliver the food to people. So that's the idea. I think it's on at 5 o'clock Pacific time on Monday, if I'm not mistaken. And we'll be talking more about it starting at in about 8 minutes. So we will have updates and which is much more with detail on what is really going on with the software and what people are doing. All our partners are doing, because we are partnered with a faith organization that is spread throughout North America and throughout India, and they're trying to recruit temples to join. Okay, so we have an advisory council looking at formalizing this. So that in a nutshell is Food Healers. So we will have the website foodhealers.org. That's where the software is being updated. So we'll be doing a web page for that as well. And but that's where the temples are going to pick up all the list of people that they're serving today, and they'll then also look at how much has been donated to their account and so on. Any questions on it? I'd be happy to answer.
Yeah, hi. Thanks, Shailesh, for that great idea. I had tried a similar thing previously, and we used to bake some vegan cookies and go to the homeless shelter, or just go to a park in downtown where a lot of homeless people aggregate. And a couple of times we were harassed by a police officer saying that this is not legal. And in fact, some of the homeless people also took the food and just threw it away. And they were, well, some of them were apparently drunk and stuff. So what's the legality behind it? And I heard some person in South Florida got arrested also for doing that. So what's the legality behind it? Over.
Yeah, when faith communities do it, there is a Good Samaritan law that applies. So which means that they are not liable for anything that could happen with this food, because they are doing it with the right intentions. Okay, so I think involving the faith communities makes it harder for the government to intervene and make it difficult, because they're going to try to do that. Okay, because this is their modus operandi, is to make people sick, and then people are making money off the pharmaceuticals that they're selling all of us. Right, so so they are going to oppose it, but this is why it's important to get another group that is just as powerful on our side.
And I'll just tag on, and then So and Jackie. In South Florida, that's a very rare exception where it's a city, or maybe there's a county, I don't know what, that made it actually illegal to donate food to homeless people. And I remember there was a 90-year-old man who said, "Screw this." And he went out and very publicly kept on donating food. And he's saying, "What are you going to do? Arrest me?" And of course, the police weren't going to arrest a 90-year-old gentleman. So there are ways around any such ridiculous law, but that's a rare exception. Alrighty, So had her hand up, followed by Jackie.
I think I told you before about the Hare Krishnas in London. For many, many years, 30 odd years, they've been feeding they feed the protests, they feed the students at University College London, maybe elsewhere. They also used to feed anybody homeless, have to be homeless, anybody passing could have the food. That was outside one of our main railway stations, and they did, the officials did try to get rid of them. I think it's ongoing. I think now University College London is actually trying to get rid of the Hare Krishna cart that feeds the students, and it's really needed and really popular. Everybody knows it's plant-based because they serve lentil dal and they serve rice and they serve flapjack. I think Hare Krishnas are vegan anyway, and yeah, so everybody was amazed that they were trying to ban Hare Krishnas from serving food to everybody. But yeah, here in London, just the same.
Thank you. So, Jackie.
I also wanted to add with food healers that we do have climate healer groups all over the world, all over the country. And I think that's a perfect opportunity if we establish climate healers groups to help educate as we're bringing the food in. We're going to be introducing ourselves. People are going to want to know what we're about and why we're doing what we're doing. So I think it really helps that we have established, like we just have Climate Healers of Phoenix. If we can all come together as climate healers and talk about this and be that mirror, we go back to our jobs, our places of worship, our family gatherings, that we can explain the broader picture. We're not just delivering food because, hey, people are hungry. We're delivering food because we love. And that's what veganism is. It is about actualizing the love that we are. Not that we feel, not that we have. We are love. And when you live love, when you are love, you cannot do this. There's no not doing this. There's no not action when you know. So I think coming in that's going to be a message, that's a language of love that people don't, like I always say, it's become the language of love of the heart is an esoteric language. So we have to start helping people remember that language so they can receive what we're doing, because it really is going to cause, like, just like when we introduce veganism, we're helping people truly see that deep-rooted understanding of who they are and their identity. We're asking people to question everything about who they think they are. And when we do that, that's already delicate enough. But now we're saying, here, we have something free for you. The first thing we get asked, because we deliver vegan food boxes, Sailesh delivers cooked food to families that are economically affected by this health crisis. Every single time we get asked, how much do I owe you? You know, when do I have to pay this back? You know, they don't understand, they don't get it. It's hard to process, and that's the culture we live in. But it's almost like we live in a different dimension. We're two dimensions living, like two realities, and we have to help people understand the new reality that we're actualizing right now. And I think if we establish active climate healers groups, we can be that bridge between our larger movement and educate through, like we do with Seeds. We have screenings, we have food tastings. We can come together, watch a movie, come together and discuss it. Like, let's all be active and contribute all the skills, all the talents, all our experiences. We all have something to contribute. Mother Nature does not make mistakes. The God does not make mistakes. We are all here to contribute our uniqueness. All our divinity manifests in different ways. And if we can take our life experiences, especially our pain, and we can transmute that into service, we will be the greatest force that's ever been seen. And this human transformation will happen.
Beautiful. Thank you, Jackie. And Jackie, other Jackie, and Gavin, go for it.
Jackie, thank you so much for that, because that truly is what it's all about. And thank you so much, Dr. Rao, for you guys doing that. I don't know where I've been, that I was unaware that you guys were doing that, but that is such a service. And I do want to be able to be a part of that. I sit on the board for the Arizona Hygiene for Hope, and they are very active in the community when it comes to homelessness, when it comes to sex trafficking teens and kids, when it comes to men and women that are getting out of jail that are trying to look for a second chance. We work very heavily with everyone at the Dream Center, which is Christian based. So if we could team up and maybe do something with them when it comes to introducing them to vegan food, I know that that would be, because they're all looking for a new start. They're all looking to find a new way, and this would be a perfect way to introduce that to them. So we can definitely get together so that we can be effective with those who are in need in that aspect at the Dream Center.
Beautiful, Jackie. Thank you. All righty. Well, it is the top of the hour, and our next 2-hour segment is on food healers. So please stick around. Everyone is welcome, and that goes for the entire 24-hour Collective Intelligence Block Party. And feel free to come and go. No problem. It's a block party. It's not a formal black tie event or something like that.
Can I say something to close before you close?
Yeah, please. I was just go for it, Jackie. Absolutely.
I want to honor this platform. Jamin, thank you so much for following your intuition, following the guidance of the universe. Sailesh, thank you so much for not getting lost in despair and realizing the blessing Kamaya brought into that awakening, because it's through your eyes, we have all found our purpose. And I live my purpose every day. And I tell you, that is the greatest blessing of my life, is to be able to be of service and to find my purpose. It brings me such joy. And despite everything that's going on, that's the resilience that lives inside of me, that I am love and that I can see what's going on and that I know enough that I can help. So I just want to thank this space. I want to thank everyone for being here. I love you all.
Good night, everyone.
Beautiful, Jackie. Jyoti, everyone, so great to have you here. Again, come and go. We'll be here until 6 a.m. Pacific time, another 11 hours of block party. So thanks.
Well, I just wanted to say that, Jackie, thank you very much for organizing this. This was a very important conversation. We are going to continue this conversation tomorrow from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. On Basecamp. So we have an event on racial justice and the 7 core shifts. So we'll be talking in more detail, and everyone is invited to that. I also wanted to bring up something that Kimaya told me yesterday. I think she found out about George Floyd yesterday, and she asked her mother, and her mother told her that you're also Black, and so you also have to be careful. So she was asking me, am I Black? So do I have to be worried about people killing me? And this is the kind of conversation that's happening with children, like this. And my response to her is that you are everything. You're not just Black. You are indigenous. You are an Indian. You are white. You are everything. You are the representative of everyone. So, which means that when you speak, everyone is willing to listen to you. So you have to use that voice to help humanity come together. So she will be doing our videos for the food healers. So we are doing videos to introduce food healers, and then we'll be doing a lot of 12-minute segments to talk about different aspects of this transformation. Because we see food healers as the beginning of the new system that we are building. This is the new model in which food is plentiful, so there is zero hunger. And so all of the sustainable development goals are automatically met in the new model. So there'll be no poverty, there's no hunger. So we are saying, when we start out designing something, we never say, I'm going to put a few bugs in it. Okay, I'm going to make sure that 10% of the people are always hungry. No, that's not how you design something. If you have a goal, which is that there is zero hunger, you need to implement a system that has zero hunger, not what we have today. So this is why we are building the new system on the foundation of food healers. Food healers is the beginning. And then over the next 6 years, we are going to build the rest of it. So, and as we do that, we're going to have, videos to help people understand what we are trying to do. And we're going to come up with the ideas as we go along. You know, it's just there are 450 people coming up with ideas on Basecamp. So it is open to everyone to join Basecamp and help us with this, with designing this new system. And so I just wanted to say that, you know, that the conversation I had with Kimaya yesterday, and she's all in. She's going to be the spokesperson for the videos. And if you have seen her videos, you know, she's pretty natural in front of the camera. And so she speaks easily. So,
And just to clarify, Kyla is and Jyoti are asking for links to Basecamp, and I just wanted to clarify that in addition to Basecamp, where there's a lot of it is text-based and email-based and whatnot, here it's conversation-based. So the conversation is happening here like this on video conference. Now on Basecamp, there are also many video conferences that are scheduled. So what I'm really emphasizing is that we're essentially partnering on leveraging both platforms to forward this conversation and the innovation of the solutions, definition of the solutions, design, et cetera, and implementation, follow through. I mean, my personal view on it is that in addition to everything that's happening physically around the world, this is like this conversation layer that we want to build out into this vast network of conversations, all through video conference, or most through video conference, some through like Reddit, for example, which has a really great format for asynchronous text-based versus synchronous video conference-based. Both are valuable, but here for me, the video conference is where we really come together, meet face-to-face, eye to eye, like we've been talking about the last couple hours, and get stuff done, get stuff figured out using our collective intelligence.
I'd just like to add that, at least for me, Basecamp is where it's a collective intelligence community where we all take, hi Kamaya, where we all take, this is where we can contribute our gifts and our talents and our skills to co-create a vegan world by 2026. So like we have different groups meeting for like permaculture and holding media accountable. I co-facilitate the parenting and education. We have a new narrative, so storytelling. So there's a lot of different groups, the new currency system. There's a lot of different groups meeting to contribute their expertise into how to co-create a vegan world by 2026. So we encourage everyone to come and join us and contribute, you know, whatever, anything that you have, even just your questions. We're all here to learn from one another. And when you come with a question, you make us think about things in a different way so we can all gain from the mirrors and different perspectives. So we encourage everyone to come and join us.
Jackie Morales, I was thinking about what you said about, you know, the ex-offender outreach, and a lot of people do prisoner outreach, prisoner visiting. I just suddenly thought how important veganism was as an intersection to that because of the imprisonment of animals. And also, if you're an ex-offender, if you come out and become vegan, it's such a new identity. Yeah. And it could give you such a real sense of, you know, I don't like to use the word importance, but a real sense of purpose and virtue even, you know, which is so opposite to how everybody sees ex-offenders. Mm-hmm. They've already paid for their crime, but, you know, they have to deal with that forever. And I just think I hadn't thought about it until you said about your work, how important that intersection was.
Yeah. Thank you so much. It is, and it's something that we're definitely diving into really deep because I think that it's needed. And so when Jackie started talking about it and Dr. Rao, it just sparked, and it makes sense to team up and to bring that to them. They want to start new, they want to start fresh, and there's a perfect opportunity to introduce them to something new that they probably are more than likely are uneducated about it. So it's exciting.
Awesome. All right, Silas, go ahead.
And I was going to say that, you know, this segment we typically talk about the progress of the app and